Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and today you're joining me on board good old narrowboat Abel's Ark as I give you a very brief update and share some wintry footage from the canals. As right now you should be watching my new short film all about the Chirk Aqueduct and how that intertwines with the wider idea of living on a boat. However, Wales went into a national lockdown before I could get there, so instead you're looking at this ugly mug. So anyway, let's get on with the video. So the first thing The first thing that I want to talk about today is the fact that I've been slowly creeping up towards the Welsh border. I managed to get within hundreds of feet of the Welsh border, and then at the exact wrong moment, the Welsh First Minister goes on telly and says, "Oh yeah, don't come over here, Dan Brown." I mean, I don't think he was specifically talking to me, so those might not have been his exact words. So, after spending the November lockdown moored up at St Martin's, I thought we'll have a slow trip over the border into Wales, get a load of footage from these fantastic locations, get the boat out of the water up at Chirk Marina to have the hull painted and have a look what's going on below the waterline, and bundle all of that into one video that can hopefully beat the last video that a lot of people have said is my best ever upload, which is Narrowboat, A Perfectly Wasted Life. So thank you for the support for that video. It's been amazing to see. So that's great, thank you. But I decided to move up to the Poacher's Pocket, or just the Poacher's as it's called now, which is a very popular local pub. And as you can see, when I say I decided to moor up there, I was practically moored up in the beer garden. And in fact, that's something that I quite like over the summer months, especially when it's all busy with tourist and holiday boats around here, that people will moor up at the Poachers for their dinner, their tea. And the fact that they're moored right on the edge of the beer garden, it almost makes them a feature of the pub itself, that people go to the pub to see, and oh, look at the canal, look at the boats. So yeah, just a random little thought there. Of course, with this being the winter time, the fire, it seems at some points, has been pumping out the heat 24/7 to combat the weather outside. Although admittedly, I do like the mixture of conditions you get over the winter months, such as here in the evening. You can see as I skim the surface of the water with the torchlight, we've got this spooky mist effect rising up off the canal. And of course here I just blundered into the right place at the right time when I was walking back down towards the Poachers one evening and saw this perfect sunset where the sun's disappearing behind the hills in the distance. We've got the smoke coming up out of a boat chimney, the reflection of the trees in the water, and of course a couple of ducks. And it should never be forgotten that for every beautiful scene like this, I've also got clips like this. Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and tonight you're joining me on board good old narrowboat Abel's Ark. And Storm Bella is just blowing in, as you may have noticed from the slight wind in the background. Yes, there's nothing quite like the Great British weather, where when I decided to move the boat just around the corner to Chirk Bank, I moved the boat in these conditions, but not long after mooring up, I was looking out of the window at these conditions. And as a little side note here, it was the first time that I'd used a mooring pin for probably about 2 years. And, well, to say I was out of practice might be an understatement, as it took me 3 attempts at driving the pin in before I actually got it somewhere that my rope could actually reach around it and then back to tie to the boat. So when I decided to move the boat from the Poachers around the corner to Chirk Bank, it meant that I really was in the literal last place to moor up in England before I would have to commit to going properly over the border into Wales. And at that point, there were still all the rumours swirling about whether England were going into a lockdown, whether Wales were going into a lockdown. So I decided to hold back for a couple of days to see if those rumours turned into anything, which of course it did on the Welsh side when Wales announced the lockdown. So what basically happened in the first lockdown, as England relaxed the rules but Wales remained in a lockdown for a few weeks later, the turning point between the aqueduct and the tunnel became the sort of generally accepted last place that you were allowed to cruise to. So from the English side, this is exactly what would happen. You would come over here, you'd be in Wales for maybe a couple of 100 feet, turn the boat around, and then carry on back into England across the aqueduct, as if you'd never really touched Wales or cruised over here in the first place. So for a lot of people, the Chirk Aqueduct experience became a double dip and was over within about 10 minutes of the first time you'd even seen the aqueduct. You'll be hard pressed to find anywhere quite so dark and quite so silent as it is in Chirk Tunnel during the sort of the out of business, the out of tourist hours. And when I think about coming up here, oh look at that, got a little spider trying to catch a ride somewhere. Ooh. Right then, my friends, as we look at this footage of a luxury super yacht on the canal, we're going to do something absolutely outrageous and hand the rest of this video over to 3 minutes of a short film I produced a few years ago about Chirk Aqueduct during a period where nobody was really watching my YouTube channel. So this isn't the end of the video. Stay tuned, as there's an actual short film section coming up with better footage of the aqueduct and from angles that you might never have seen before. So before we head into that though, I'm going to sign out and just say a few thank yous now to the channel members and to some of the PayPal supporters. And I can't thank you enough, as always. You really do. It means the world to me that people actually support this stuff. So thank you to Mr. Quiet U 112, Alan K, Rory 58, Mark B, Darren C, The Art of Production, Zoe, Jeff, Donna and Adrian. So thank you so much, and well, until the next time, keep it boat worthy, have a fantastic day, and enjoy the short film. Chirk Aqueduct and Viaduct have been popular tourist destinations for a very long time, and one of the things that I often think is overshadowed by the general beauty and spectacle and the views from this particular spot is the fact that these things are so old. I just find it fascinating that something like this great big stone aqueduct was built and completed in 1801. I think it started in the late 1700s, but it's been carrying water for over 200 years at 70 foot above ground level, which to me is just a fascinating thought that 2 centuries that's been going on. That's a lot of water. Equally, the viaduct was completed in 1848, and it was deliberately set to be higher across the valley to literally, set in stone almost, indicate and illustrate that the railway network was a superior, more dominant network across the country compared to the lowly canals beneath. Today we're going to take a little look underneath the aqueduct and viaduct, and it really is a completely different perspective to the one that most people see walking across the top of the aqueduct. And I myself and many viewers to this channel over the years will have seen me pass over on the little boat that I used to live on and bike across it and walk across it and even kayak across it. It's a great view from the top, but when you're literally in the shadow of these things, they become far more impressive in the scale and the work that went into them. And again, it's just that fascinating thing to me, the idea that 200 years plus somebody was there organising all of this and creating something that's so solid and substantial that 200 years later it's still carrying water and trains. Absolutely amazing. There's something quite ironic, I think, that I can pause a video like this and my commentary to just let you enjoy a moment of peace and quiet of the water flowing when we're stood right next to something that in its era and when these things were constructed was meant to be part of the network that was fueling the industrial revolution across the country. And now we see the canals as hobbyist holiday destinations and natural little beautiful places to go walking and just enjoy some outdoors and peace and quiet.